Let's talk about the McMartin case. In April 1985, authorities went to the McMartin case and looked for tunnels under the school. The children had said that they were taken into tunnels under the school. There was a chamber down there. They were sexually molested. That involved ceremonies, adults with robes, candles, chanting. Adults had no clothes on under their robes. And they were taken up into a tunnel and a triplex, a bathroom trap door of the triplex next door. They were taken out in automobiles. We're talking about 2, 3, 4-year-old children, folks, and prostituted in the community. The authorities received this. They began their investigation. The authorities finally, in 1985, went out and decided to look for the tunnels because they said the children were hallucinating. The children also said that they were taken by air up into a mountainous area where they were exposed to satanic ceremonies based on what they described and brought back in time for the parents to pick up the kids. So the authorities didn't find anything. We're getting off. Pull those next slides. Well, I'll tell you what. In the spring of 1993, I heard that the property of the McMartin School had been sold from the McMartin family to the defense attorney, actually given to him. He didn't make enough off the county. His bill was only $3 million. And from there, he said he was broke and he sold it to a contractor. The contractor was going to build an office building on the space. And I heard that the contractor had this property. And so I went out and contacted him. And I said, dear sir, I would like to have access to that property. He said, I'll give you 2 weeks. I signed a contract, assumed liability, and along with some of the parents, we hired an archaeologist from UCLA, Dr. Gary Stickle, knowing full well that I'm not qualified to say there's tunnels under there, even if I found them. And we began our dig. At the end of 2 weeks, I had to stall, because Dr. Stickle was not quite ready to admit there were tunnels. It took us 34 days. At noon the 34th day, with the bulldozers, with their motors running, ready to knock the building down, he was going to knock the building down and then build this office building. Dr. Stickle said, you know, I can say without any question right now, there have been tunnels under the school. They were filled in. Now, I'm going to show you the documentation on the tunnels. This is it. No, keep it there. Keep that there. This is the what we found. This is a preliminary report. I have a 186-page scientific report available to you out here if you're interested, by the way. We found a 9-foot wide subterranean entrance under the west wall of dog room. There were 4 classrooms. That was Ray Bucky's room. By the way, Virginia McMartin and Ray Bucky were tried. Virginia, the grandmother, was acquitted. Ray had a hung jury. And we found these tunnels in the middle of the second trial of Ray Bucky. They could have been used to convict him. We called the prosecutor. He sent his investigator out, Mr. Perez. Mr. Perez told me, I don't want you entering in my conversation with the archaeologist. I said, why? He says, you're too argumentative. I said, well, okay, you go in and talk. I'll just keep my mouth shut. We went in, he talked, and he argued with the archaeologist. Here's an investigator not qualified to talk about tunnels. He said, there aren't any tunnels there, and the archaeologist, of course, argued. But anyway, they didn't use that evidence, strong evidence, in the second trial. They ignored it right in the middle of the second trial. I might mention this. The children identified professional football players, professional baseball players, household name actors, actresses, and the son of the leading politician, not a leading politician, the leading politician in Los Angeles as being perpetrators. Okay, we found an avocado tree root cut on both sides of the entrance, and I'll show you this in just a few minutes. The entrance of the tunnel, as I said, it was 9 feet across the top, and on one side was a live avocado root, on the other side was a dead avocado root. They had to cut that out. We have this, by the way. we found a plastic Disney bag, copyright 1982, about 4.5 feet below the classroom floor and 3 to 6 inches in from the entrance and under the foundation. Now, the reason that plastic Disney bag is so important is because we think that they filled the tunnel in 1982 when the complaint was initially brought to the attention of the authorities. I said 83 earlier, it's 82 when the complaint was made. And when they filled the Disney bag, somehow or other flew in there as they were filling it in and nobody noticed it. Now, who says there is no God, right? What documentation, fantastic documentation, that tunnel, the entrance to that tunnel, this was right at the entrance, was filled in 1982 or sometime subsequent to 1982. Mr. Ken Lanning, the outstanding, know-it-all FBI expert, behavioral science, says that I took that garbage bag in 1993 out of a trash can and placed it there, that I planted evidence. Of course, Mr. Lanning says there's no organized satanic movement in this country today. There's only a few dabblers here and there. Thank you, sir. We have another 3 hours to go, okay? Can you hang in there? Okay, the tunnel proceeded south, then 45 feet through classroom 4 and 3 and north, then 10 feet within the classroom 4. The tunnels were 30 inches wide, 44 to 46 inches deep, with the top of the tunnel 30 inches under the classroom floor. The children were able to walk through it. We're talking about young kids now, right? The adults had to stoop down and walk through it, but they could do it. The tunnels were built in kind of a triangular, or I should say a semicircle type, so that they had natural support, I guess. These people know everything. They are brilliant. The footing between classroom 3 and 4 was arched, where the tunnel passed underneath it, and 12 inches shorter in depth at this location than the same footing 12 feet to the north. I'll show you that in just a minute. That's significant because the arch was where the tunnel went, and it was arched in that particular location, whereas 12 feet away, it was 12 inches longer or thicker. Footing between, let's see, there were 4 large upright containers were found in the tunnel under the arch, obviously hand-placed. A 9-foot wide chamber was found along the tunnel across classroom 4. The top of the chamber and the top of sections of the tunnel had layers of plywood covered with tar paper, which had apparently been supported by cinder blocks and 2x2 and 2x4 wooden posts found underneath. Tunnel features made it evident that the tunnels had been hand-dug. The 7-foot tunnel extended into the triplex next door. Tunnel extended from the bathrooms off the office and classroom 1 to the front yard of the triplex next door. Front yard concealed from the street by a 3-car garage. Children described the entrance and exiting tunnels in the triplex yard exactly where the tunnels and exit were found. A 39 by 41 inch area under a hole cut in this neighbor's bathroom floor had been excavated and subsequently tilled. Now, that was where the kids told us ahead of time that they were taking us up in a trapdoor in this bathroom. And there was a crawl space in the house about like this, and we got one of our skinny archaeologists to go in there, take pictures. The bathtub protruded underneath the floor of the bathroom. There was a bathroom in the back of the same building in another apartment. It did not protrude there. This was the space we're talking about, 39 by 41 inches. Just enough room for a kid to come up and be taken out. Other significant facts: small white plastic plate with 3 pentagrams, hand-drawn on the top of the light green paint, was found by the archaeologists. Pentagrams were hand-drawn by an adult and not part of the manufacturer's design. Many other artifacts were found whose analysis will be released upon completion of the test. The analysis has been released. That's the scientific report I told you about. No doorknobs were on classroom 3, only a deadbolt lock. Each classroom had an on and off switch which was labeled fire alarm. The system did not connect to the fire station but was used as an alert within the school if somebody came around. More than 2,000 artifacts were found under the school floor, including over 100 animal bones. Due to the constraints and time constraints and so forth, we had to discontinue the process on noon the 34th day. By the way, this cost us, a lot of people donated their time. It still costs us money. cost us between $55,000 and $60,000. I personally put in $17,000, which I ended up, in many instances, paying over a long-term period payment plan. This is a floor plan of the whole lot.
Good evening, guys. Hoping you're well. It's Friday evening. It's 1:42 a.m. here in Portugal. I hope you're all doing fine and that you are in a good place for what's to be shared here today, which is not, we're not going to judge whether or not Ted Gunderson is a Quinto Pro control position guy. The video that we saw in the beginning of this podcast relates to the McMartin preschool case. And this is a video I selected specially to start this podcast as it gives a bit of context to what happened to me when I was very young. Thank you all for being here. I'm gonna try to be concise. It's the first time I speak about this on camera, so it's a bit complicated for me. I decided to do it this way by myself. I believe it's the best way to do it, easiest. Not to say I won't be willing to discuss this with other people in the future. Well, some of you probably know, satanic ritual abuse is a type of abuse that involves satanic ritualistic practices, rituals, and invocations. It uses trauma based mind control to groom and to terrify and also coerce the victims into becoming perpetrators at times. It involves the use of drugging towards the victim. Almost always there's drugging involved. It's an obvious choice. It keeps the victims more under control, if you will, less prone to panic, more resistant to certain kind of abuse, certain kind of pain, or at least that's what I remember in my case. What else? It usually involves children as young as newborns, involves blood rituals, usually ends up in the murder of children or women, pregnant women, and the consumption of blood with the final goal of receiving favors and power from Satan and other demonic entities. So that's the end game. Of course, there is the consumption of adrenalized blood, also known as adrenochrome, which is a substance that is supposed to rejuvenate the human body and make the person hallucinate. It's like a mixture of, I've heard, it's a mixture of PCP and cocaine and LSD, as far as the effects in the person that is taking it. I wouldn't know, obviously, thank God, but that's what I've heard. The adrenochrome, the process to oxidate adrenaline, I'm sorry, it's on Google Patents. You can go and look for it on the internet. So there's a lot of things that appear on the media and on certain um, video games and stuff like that, that are used as predictive programming and controlled unveiling. Where they show you the truth, and they make it seem as something crazy, but in reality, the truth is that reality is stranger than fiction. So all those horrible things that you see on film, uh, you can gather that there's probably worst happening in reality, and a lot of people are oblivious to that. A lot of people also prefer to not open their eyes in regards to this, because ignorance is bliss, right? Facing these facts, facing the horror that this happens to children worldwide every day, for some people is too hard to sustain, to resist. Um, and that's why we are on a quest to bring more awareness to this. There are several cases, criminal cases, that have made the mainstream media headlines, not discussed as SRA or satanic ritual abuse, but simple kidnappings, disapparitions, murder. Um, I'll give you an example: the Madeleine McCann case here in Portugal, 3 hours away from where I am right now in Algarve. It's one of the most notorious cases, and of course, it's full of corruption, Freemasons. Even the Podesta brothers are supposed to be involved. There's a character there also, the cousin of no, the nephew of the creator of psychoanalysis. What's his name? Um, Freud, Sigmund Freud, of course. The so-called father of psychology and psychoanalysis, of course, who turned out to be a pedophile, just like his uncle. Another notorious case is the Johnny Gosh case, the separation of Johnny Gosh, which has been completely infiltrated since the beginning. And sadly, a lot of people suspect that family members are involved in the separation of Johnny. Johnny is supposed to have been trafficked to Nebraska, to the Boys Town Center, with what was his name? This politician, Larry King, Lawrence King. There's a very good documentary that I recommend that I have on my website called "Conspiracy of Silence," and that dissects that case very well. We also have the John Benet Ramsey case in Boulder, Colorado. Obviously, there the family was involved. Lynn Wood was one of the lawyers for the family, a defamation lawyer, which makes you think twice about who Lynn Wood really is. The parents of John Benet Ramsey were definitely involved. This was an arranged ritual. The parents of John Benet sold her as part of a deal that involved what's his name, John, right? John Ramsey, to actually get a promotion at Lockheed and Martin. So that right there tells you all the story, right? It's the military-industrial complex. It's Child Protective Services. In John Benet Ramsey's case, the police was involved. The parents were involved. The brother saw something. What else? Apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell was even involved. There's a picture in which Ghislaine appears behind John Bonet. Some people say it's her, some people deny it, but that's your personal call. In my opinion, it's her. It looks like her, so I believe it is her in that case. We have the Memphis Street case in Tennessee, where Steve Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers were murdered in a ritualistic fashion by Damien Eccles and two other boys who at the time were teenagers, I believe, um, ranging in between 16 and 19 years old. So, satanic ritual abuse can happen in any setting. It can happen in a basement, in a house, in the basement from a house, in a school, in a church, at a graveyard at night, at a park. It doesn't have a definitive location. It does require certain things, pentagrams, symbolism, the burning of sage, black candles, usually the sacrifice of animals goes on par with these rituals, but they usually happen beforehand, before the main ritual. And the blood or the bones are used for certain things during and I guess after. So, first of all, a lot of people ask, why didn't I publish this when I started total disclosure? That's a very easy question. And the answer to that is that when I did this 6 years ago, when I started doing this 6 years ago, 2018, 2017, I was scared, obviously scared shitless of speaking about this in public. In fact, before this year, I think I only mentioned it like 4 or 5 times in different platforms, but just vaguely. I didn't want to make a big fuss out of it because I was still in the process of unlocking memories and recovering, recovering, recovering from PTSD and other situations that clearly um, affect those of us. Something happened here. I don't know if I got taken out. Can you confirm that you still see me, or something happened? I don't see myself on the camera for some reason. Okay, the image is frozen. Um, well, the camera is frozen. So I have two options. I guess I can try to just keep talking without the camera, which is weird. Or, and this, I don't understand why this happens with when I'm trying to speak about this. It's the second time. It's the third time actually. Um, so now, okay, audio's fine. Let me see what's going on with the camera. Okay. Okay. I had to refresh. I guess that fixed it. Is it fixed? Now I cannot see any live chat. Okay. You see me, you hear me, everything good. Awesome. So, as I was saying, um, there were two things. I was recovering, afraid, well, three things. And I didn't want this to be, I could have gone viral with my testimony. If I share it with someone like Isaac Cappy or even the ITNJ who I infiltrated in the early days. Of course, I could have gone viral. Viral, it would have been the easy way, but I didn't want. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a legit researcher, a legit documentary maker, and I just didn't feel it was the best way to go. To just share that right away. Despite that, besides that, I mean, I wasn't ready. I wasn't in a good place mentally, and I was still trying to remember things that some of them I finished remembering last year, as even my wife knows because I spoke with her about it, obviously. Let me turn this white light. Obviously, well, let me start by saying that my parents had nothing to do with it. My family had nothing to do with it. Just hardworking people who were too busy and too ignorant as far as these things go to notice, to realize what was going on. Uh, there were some signs that I guess were overlooked as something else, things like me writing a suicide letter when I was like 5 or 6 years old. That's not normal. My father found it, and his reaction was to be angry and to not accept what he was about to be dealing with, I guess. Um, in the end, I realized that there's two probable reasons why I was targeted in such a way. These things I just realized recently, 3 or 4 years ago. Um, you know, First of all, well, the abuse in itself, the satanic rituals started when I was 4 years old. We're talking about 1990. I was born in 1986 in Costa Rica, in the capital, in San Jose. Um, Lived a high middle class life, comfortable life. It was decent. It was good. I mean, my memories from early days, some of them are very vivid. Others are a bit hazy. I remember, well, my mom was a publicist. At first she was a stewardess, and then she became a publicist working for the biggest newspaper in the country. She didn't last long. She had a problem with her boss. I guess there was like some sexual harassment there, and my father threatened the guy, and she quit, and that was it. Typical. Um, but my mother was she's alive. She's a very smart person. She had me when I was 18 years old, so that's one of the reasons. They were very young, 19 years old. I'm sorry. They were very young, inexperienced. My mom was dealing with her own things when I was little. There was some errors made in my raising, the way that I was raised, I guess, of course. But every parent commits them, especially the first time. My father owned a car repair shop, and he basically spent 1 month in the States and 1 month in Costa Rica because he flew to the States to buy total cars, used cars, and came here to fix them. He brought them here back when taxes were really low, repaired them, sold them, and that's how he made his money. That's how he ended up being able to buy our house. Um, so basically, because they both worked, they both needed to work at the beginning, like it's the case in with many families nowadays. I was put in pre-K. Pre-K. Um, this is a place that no longer exists. It was demolished. I've tried finding things on the newspapers from, I don't know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I cannot find a thing. The only things that I have are the pictures that my mom has back in Costa Rica, which, of course, I don't have access to right now. But when I'm gonna go back to Costa Rica, what, in like 4 months, and I plan to take all those pictures, take them with me, and bring them here, make digital copies of them. Um, the place was called the Happy Nest, um, in Spanish, of course, El Nido Feliz, and I guess it was pre-K, kinder, and prep school. So three different generations. I was in pre-K. I was the youngest one. I was like 4 years old. My cousin was also there, uh, but I'm not sure if she finished or if she was taken out before, because she hated it, just like me. I hated it. Um, I don't think she was. I haven't spoken with her about this. I don't think she was abused in the way I was. I don't think she participated in any of these rituals, but she was with me and other kids when we found a bag of decapitated black cats hanging from one of the trees outside of around the football court of the pre-K. So that I can surely ask her, and I'm sure she remembers because we were freaked the fuck out. Obviously, that was a sign for the things to come. The names of the perps, I just don't recall. I don't recall the teachers. I don't recall their faces. It's like everything was done there. There's pictures of them in that album that my mother has. So that's what I want to get. But everything was done in a way that the memories are just broken. Everything is fragmented. The drugging in itself was one of the most uh, notorious occurrences, if you may, because I didn't participate in these rituals all the time, but I was drugged at school almost all the time. So even when I wasn't partaking in this ritualistic abuse, I was being drugged, and who knows what else. From the things I remember, I do remember. Obviously, this was the green syrup that they gave us. That was the drug. They call it the green juice. It was giving us some sort of punishment. Forgive me. I'm gonna light up a cigarette. I know kids shouldn't smoke. Nobody should smoke, but it's a touchy subject. So the green juice. It was. I wasn't a saint. I was a difficult kid. I guess, like, when kids are too smart for their own good. That was kind of the thing that happened to me most of my life. I got into trouble a lot. So, my attitude, my behavior, and me being smarter than it was, I guess, accepted, or I was always defiant. I was always trying to create a coup d'état against the teachers and stuff like that. I was the mastermind of such occurrences. So I guess that's one of the reasons why I became a target, just on my sheer behavior. Later on, as time passed by, Uh, my parents sent me to a psychologist. That happened some 3 years. No, I want to say 2 or 3 years after, because obviously, like they were impressed that I learned to read and to write by myself. Just because basically my father bought me all these magazines, and I used to just read them by myself while I was 5 years old, 6 years old, and they were amazed by it. And at the same time, or around the same age, I had all these video games and stuff, and I was learning English by myself. Like my mom spoke English to me sometimes because she's American, but not all the time. So my parents were amazed. I was translating the video, I was translating music, stuff like that. So they sent me to the shrink, and I scored 145 IQ on the Mensa test, which I guess is quite high. I don't know. I There's two things about that. I never wanted to be. I never wanted all that pressure. To have to for my father to think that I was supposed to be this genius, and that I was supposed to take out the family from whatever situation he thought it was in. And at the same time, I didn't have any emotional intelligence because of things that were happening at the time, present, past, and future. Coming back to the happy nest, um, the there were usually five other kids during these rituals. So I was tied up to a chair in the middle of a pentagram. Each of the other five kids were on each point. I was tied with a rope from my chest, and that usually the memories that I have that are more piercing, more constant, less less fragmented, if you will, is me coming back from the drug, from the green syrup, um, and being tied to the chair, and have my body full of pins, of these pins that you used to hang the clothes all over my body, naked body. I was completely naked, and that's when I woke up. I guess because of the pain, sheer pain, right? When you're a kid, those that thing is like torture. So I remember that happening. The other kids were the ones instructed to put the pins on me, as the adults who were wearing animal masks. So I don't even know if it was only people from the pre-K or other people. So this basement, you had to go down through some stairs, and there were tunnels connecting to it. There were three or four tunnels connecting to it. It was always dark with lit candles, black candles. Uh, I guess it was sage. They were always burning something, chantings. Um, Very scary, very scary, very chaotic. It was a chaotic scene, as I remember it. Um, I remember just like the sheer terror and the screaming, and that's what stuck with me. I do recall one opportunity in which I guess they needed me to stay quiet, and I was just screaming like a mad kid. And one of the perps punched me in the ear so hard that I had a horrible ear infection. And I remember having that ear infection for weeks. They told my parents that I had a fight with another kid, and that, of course, I started it, and so on. So that was there. There was always an excuse for whatever bruise, whatever scratch, whatever um, I don't know, whatever anything that could be noticed by my parents, who they were in their own thing, because at the time the bus used to drop me at my grandma's house with my grandpa, my grandma, and the parents of my grandpa. Who I love them all. They were amazing, amazing people. My grandpa was like my father, just like an amazing old school guy. It's very special. And my parents came and picked me up at night. So that was the situation. I guess there wasn't much they could notice as we arrived home at night just for me to eat and get to bed for another day at pre-K. Obviously, I never wanted to go. I always begged them to take me out. Um, I guess that when you're a child, you cannot put it into the right words why you don't want to do certain things. You just don't want to do them, and you don't offer much explanation. So that didn't help my cause. By the time I arrived to, well, I was switched. Of course, I did pre-K there, and then I went away to a different school. This school, this is funny. It's interesting and a bit creepy. The school that I was transferred to for kindergarten and prep school was called Zion. This was a Catholic school, but it was run by Jewish rabbis. And we had nuns living in the premises, we had priests, we had a church. It's one of the most, it's one of the oldest schools in Costa Rica. Private school. I was always in private school. And not to say that this doesn't happen in public schools as well, but what happened to me was in private school. So it's sometimes I figure that these people have like a radar, which like they smell a kid that has been victimized from a mile away, because as soon as I entered kindergarten, first of all, I was fucked in the head. So I remember I had a serious girlfriend when I was in kindergarten. I was like 5 years old, and already thinking with that mindset that I should have a girlfriend, kids, this and that. Obviously, that shocked the teachers, shocked my parents. I guess it shocked the teachers, all of them, except the ones that were abusers themselves. But in this school was also very problematic. There were instances of abuse all along, not only sexual but physical, to the point that my mom and my father had to threaten the physical education teacher once because he just threw me. Uh, I was being obnoxious, yes, but I was like 8, 9 years old, so a bit unwarranted, for a grown up to just grab you and throw you to the air. And you know, granted, I landed in some mattresses that we were using to do some exercises, but still, it was very strange. In kindergarten, there was this situation in which we had a period. I don't know if it was before lunch or after lunch. It was before the big recess, I guess, in which it was nap time. And this was one of the things that I unblocked last year that I kind of had, you know, stored somewhere in a cluster in my brain, because, like, I remember they put us to sleep on top of towels while listening to, I don't know if it was mute. I think it was music, or probably not even. Probably, I think it was very creepy because we were laying on the ground, and I think the teachers just walked among us doing this sound like shh. like trying to quiet us down. I guess some of us didn't want to nap, so. But I remember that during that hour, I always, I've always been a guy that needs to take a leak often. Uh, you know, in good and bad moments. And I guess that a few times in which I went to the restroom during this nap time period, there was always, this is a memory that I have happening many times. This blonde girl, the same girl, naked, with another kid in the restroom. And they were doing sexual things, touching each other and stuff. And I remember going there and seeing this and just being horrified, disgusted too, because it wasn't, I mean, you can gather it was a horrific scene. Um, I remember once the little girl once was trying for me to do something with her or something like that, and I just ran horrified. I remember being physically scared, physically shaken, and disgusted at the same time. It was something that I deemed to be embarrassing, not like something that you shouldn't tell anybody. Something I had already that thing in my mind where we're supposed to keep secrets, and I don't really know where that came from exactly, but I'm guessing it came from my previous experience. So that's what happened there. Moving forward, I was in first grade. In Costa Rica, the system is a bit different than in the States because you guys, I think elementary school is 6 years long, but I might be mistaken. And high school is 4 years, or is it five? In our case, it's 6 and 5. So we just go from first grade to 11th grade, and that's how it works. When I was in first grade, they then knew that I had this IQ, so they wanted to pass me to second grade. And I remember doing everything I could to destroy the possibility of them doing that. Hitting other kids, failing exams on purpose, not doing the homework or doing it because my mom made me do it, and coming to class and ripping it off. So they would, by all means, retract the situation in which they wanted to pass me to the next grade. I was already the youngest kid in the class, so I didn't want to be a baby in the second grade or whatever. So I guess one of the reasons why I was targeted was that I was too smart for my own good. Still, I am. It makes for interesting stories, but it gets you in trouble often. In second grade, I was caught selling pornographic drawings in school. I remember that. I remember having two or three. This is gonna sound crazy, but I remember having two or three regular customers, my colleagues, my kid colleagues in second grade, paying, I don't know, 25 cents per drawing, almost every day. How does a kid has the imagination or the initiative to sell pornography in second grade? So that was me. That was me, over sexualized, hypersexualized kid, disturbed kid, not shy, but not, out of. I didn't go out my way to make friends. Let's say that. And I remember my mother being called to school by the principal and being told, "Hey, how come Alessandro is doing this, selling these things, drawings? They found like a whole folder full of these things. My mother was embarrassed, as you can bet. Uh, Poor woman. They were asking her, basically attacking her, saying, "Who knows what he saw in your house for him to be doing this?" So that right there, and I remember my parents used to have like an art painting in our house of a naked woman, but that wasn't the reason why I was drawing those things. Obviously, my parents thought that was the reason, and they took it out. The same week this meeting with the principal happened, my parents took that frame out, blaming it for my perversion. Well, first of all, no child of that age is a pervert. Such behavior, such hypersexualization, is a reflection of something that is happening to that child. No child has the drive when he's 5 or 7 or even 9 years old, if he's a normal child and hasn't been through sexual abuse or any kind of abuse, to be doing these things. Now, during the ritual abuse that I suffered in pre K, I wasn't sexually abused as far as I can remember. I was tortured, I was drugged, I was emotionally, spiritually, and physically abused. I don't recall, besides being naked on a chair, I guess that amounts to some kind of sexual abuse, you know. But the sexual abuse for me came in that Zionist, Jewish, Catholic private school. And it was at the hands of a teacher when I was in second grade. So, the memories of that, I'm not going to go into details on what reassured me that my memories were real and not something that because you question yourself. As a survivor, you oftentimes question yourself when you're so young. Did I imagine this? Why would this happen to me? This makes no sense. I have other memories with these people that were good. Next to these memories that I have with these people that are completely deranged, completely inverted. So in your mind, you're trying to make sense of all of this, and it's very hard to accept and to be able to understand why there were certain things that in your childhood, certain aromas, certain tastes, certain sensations that were unnatural for a child to know or to have reminiscence of why they were there. Okay? So when you start putting the dots together, you do realize that what you were fearing to be true is actually true. Um, I guess that marked me for the future, um, to be victimized over and over again, because it happened in second grade, and then it happened again at what, like 7, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then, like 2 years later, with someone else, with the mate of one of my friends. My parents used to go out with them to drink, and they left us with a babysitter. So some crazy stuff happened there because one of the kids was way older than me, I guess. Like he was 12, 13, and I was 9. So I was in that situation a lot of times in which I was 8 or 9 and I was hanging out with 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds. Then, of course, when I was 13, I was hanging out with 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds. So that's that's more or less how my life turned out to be after this ritualistic experience, which I hope to bring you pictures next year. I could ask my mom for her to send them, but she's gonna be suspicious, and I don't want to involve her. It's we're at the time that there's nothing she can do, and there's nothing she will gain from it. She knows something happened. She already knows. Which she and I had a conversation during COVID when we were locked in the house and we had no choice but to talk to each other. We had a conversation. She knows. My father died not knowing. So that's that's one of the things I was always afraid of telling him. First of all, he wouldn't have let me be. He would have tried to get it out of me who was the abuser, because obviously there was there were abusers when I was a kid and when I was a teenager who I know their names. Abusers that my parents knew, friends of my mother, and things like that that happened when I was 13, 15, 16, 17. And these people were 40 in their 40s and 50s. So these women, um, I'm not protecting them. I'm not protecting them. I'm just, I guess, I don't want to bring more chaos into my family more than it has been in the last year with the death of my father and a bunch of other situations. Um, I guess I don't need any. It's not the right thing to say that I don't need any justice from these people because I say that, but I don't feel it. What I do feel is that I don't want to for my for my mother to have to face this at this time, or even my grandmother, or which is also one of the reasons why I was so skeptical of coming out and doing this in public. Because who knows if my mom is gonna see it? Who knows if my brother is gonna see it? Who knows if my father is gonna see it? And I guess that also, um, listen, the things that happened during my teenage years, even though it was abuse because I was 16 and the women in question were over, above 40s, I guess. Yeah, 40 something. Um, I wasn't a saint, and I'm not um, trying to excuse these people. There's no excuse for what they did. But I was, you know, I don't want to say I was looking for it, but I wasn't saying no. I was taking drugs, all kinds of drugs. I was, um, you know, being with any woman that I could, any girl that I could. That was my mentality. As far as I wasn't like this musician that is all into groupies, but I didn't care. I didn't care because it seems like every time I care about a woman or a girl, uh, I care about them because I knew it was bound to fail. So I was always chasing that suffering, that um, punishment, indirectly. And for most of my adult life, young adult life, that's the reason why I was never able to have a serious relationship with a woman. That's why I was always, running away from whatever situation happened in my childhood, with drugs, with violence, with self, you know, self cutting. I was a cutter. You know, I have my arms full of scars and stuff like that. Um, One of the things that certainly pushed me to try heroin when I was 16 years old is the abuse that I was experiencing and that I had experienced before. Because I went from being a jock, one of the top sports performers in school, to just trying every single drug that was at my disposal at age 16. You know, crazy things, a crazy life. I'm just lucky to be alive at this point. Lucky to be alive. When I was 16, um, I just ran away with my best friend to the beach to stay there for a month. I didn't have any money. What I did was that one of my friends was from his father. Well, his family is from Iran, and his father used to traffic opium for his own personal use. So I just told my friend, hey, give me a box of that. I'll sell it at the beach and be able to stay there for 2 months. And this is the kind of things that I did when I was 16. Vandalism, crime. When I was 16 and unable to get a job, and my father had already cut me off because obviously I was a disaster. I was involved in robbing cars with a band, with a criminal gang in Costa Rica. We stole like 20 cars. I did stuff like that. When I turned 17, 18, there was a big scare during my. It was a short-lived criminal life, a juvie criminal life. But there was a huge scare in which the police chased us and shot us. They chased us like for what, like 5 miles, full speed, full speed. I remember the car we were in, we were just like flying. Every time there was a slope, the car just went like this. And it was 5 of us in that car, and we were terrified. We had just had an incident with a gun, and after that, I said, never again, never again. And at least I never participated in any of those things again. As far as being involved in theft and stuff like that, that was the last time when I was 17. Um, the drug use and the obviously goes hand in hand with being a musician. The free range sex and being unpreoccupied over seeing sex as something trivial and not even worth worrying about. It came with the territory. You were not supposed to care. Who did you kiss last night? Who did you had sex with last night? Um, I remember that obviously I fancied myself as one of the strongest guys as far as exes went. That was one of my. You could say that I was more notorious for being a party animal than for my music career, because I certainly spent more time partying than playing music, 100%. And perhaps that's why I didn't make it. Uh, Other reasons involved. Thank God I didn't make it, because, as we know, it's a terrible business. It's a terrible industry. Um, that industry is what being a musician and being a legendary excessive guy is what led me to meet these guys, these British guys who owned the hottest nightclub in Costa Rica at the time, the Hoxton. Now we're talking 2010, from 2010 to 2014, 2015. And this was the hottest place in the country at the time. I was a DJ. 3 times a week, and I was a host for the celebrities that came over. So, what does a host does for celebrities at a nightclub? Well, we get them whatever they need. So, my job there, more than anything else, was to get the purest cocaine and the purest drugs to this all these musicians that came to the Hoxton to get high, to party, and to have sex. And that's what opened my eyes as far as the depravity, the sheer filth that surrounds all this, the fashion industry, the art industry, the music industry, the even the marketing industry. Marketers. We used to hang with publicists all the time, musicians, fashion designers, models, painters, photographers. It was just a big melting pot of people that um, were just addicted to debauchery. Some people liked drugs, some people didn't. Some people liked orgies, some people didn't. I had friends that were cooks that liked to see their girlfriends being, you know, having sex with some other guy. I witnessed all of that. I partied with the best of them. I hung out with John Lydon, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols. I hung out with Marky Ramone, Andy Rourke from the Smiths, Stephen Adler from Guns N' Roses. He was great. Um, Hung out with some other people that were not so great, such as Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park and Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. I hung out with Chester Bennington. Um, Hung out with the guys from Whitesnake, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Cypress Hill. Um, what is the name of this band? I forget them. They're a bit newer. Mm, Cage the Elephant. I hung out with those guys. Um, there's many stories to be told. My life, my revelation didn't end with the ritualistic abuse. It just started that way, and that opened my eyes and my experience to fall low enough to be able to see and get acquainted with all this darkness and all this disaster. All these people that, um, in their own ways, they are destroyed themselves. They are destroying themselves, and they have been destroyed by others. And in a sense, that made me stronger to be able to understand what happened to me later on. As I understood, one thing that could have also made me a target is the fact that, and I'm gonna bring you a special guest. Give me a second, because I need you to introduce a little friend. Sí. So this is Serafina. Say hello. She's a bit spicy today, but she's great company, and obviously, she is here protecting the realm and protecting the room as cats do. A bit sleepy, but yeah, that's what happened. As far as the green syrup goes, I don't know what it was exactly. I do know that it was very spicy and bitter at the same time, but I have no idea what it was. It was dark green, dark green. Um, I don't know if you guys have questions. She likes to watch TV. She likes to watch me working on the computer too. She's very smart, right? Aren't you a smart one? Uh, well, she has brought tons of joy to our house. Needless to say, these animals are wonderful. Don't stand up on the keyboard. You might do something you regret. Well, she's 2 months old. Two 2 months, 2 months and a half actually. And we were getting her a sister. We still are, so they can entertain each other. But her sister is sick, so we're waiting to see what's going on with that. Um, we don't have the energy to play with her all day. We have too much work to do. But since we're always home, we work from home. It's an ideal situation for the cats. Uh, Now we're gonna leave tomorrow for Lisbon, a couple of days. So I'm a bit worried about that. But yes, to finish, I guess that this podcast was meant just to reassure the testimony and to be able to share it with you guys in a more personal way. Um, I just hope I didn't miss anything extremely important. I'm checking my written testimony just to make sure. Um, you know, there's things that I just didn't include in this video because they are not they don't pertain to satanic ritual abuse. They pertain to things that happened later in my life that could serve as a cautionary tale for many other people that out there. Although I don't think teenagers doing drugs and being dazed and confused are out to see satanic ritual abuse podcasts and stuff like that. But in the end, I guess my message is of awareness is for you guys to, especially those of you who are parents, to be more vigilant, to be less trusty. Evil is in every corner. That's not a joke. Even if your kids want to be really independent, uh, don't let them. I mean, always try to be aware what they're doing, where they are, because that urgency to be free, to be an adult, can create a lot of problems. And of course, not to say a lot of abuse and incest, incest is self explanatory. A lot of abuse comes from within. In my case, thank God it didn't. Um, okay. Um, you're very welcome, Stalky Witter. Ambrosia. Well, I would be interest. I mean, it would be interesting to me to know what it was. Obviously, I mean, if I tasted it again, I would know. I would know what it is. I guess that would be the only way to be sure. I just don't. I just remember it was horrible. It tasted horrible, and 3 minutes later, it was done. I was already drugged for whatever they wanted to do. Um, Absinthe now. I drank absinthe, legit absinthe with a silver spoon and everything when I was older. It wasn't absinthe, but now that you mention it, it was a bit similar in the bitterness, but the spiciness is what's lacking. Because as far as I recall, absinthe is very bitter, but it's not spicy. And this thing is it burns like jalapenos. I don't think it can be wormwood. I mean, that wouldn't drug a kid for satanic abuse. I think, but I never tried wormwood myself. I want to try it for parasite issues. But yes, it was spicy and bitter at the same time. For the question if there has been more threats on my life, not so far. I mean, we had a couple of scares um, last year, but I think it was due to other things. For example, our house got attacked on Friday the 13th in October last year. A rock got thrown into our window, and it was pretty scary. I came out with a knife. Obviously, that's my reaction. I'm not gonna just hide in my house, even though my wife doesn't want to allow me to go outside. I'm not gonna be hiding there with the women and the kids. But I think it was related to something else. We put a complaint with the bank, and we think the employees at the bank got angry with us and decided to just, because they had our address, decided to just you know try to scare us or something. Because nothing happened again. It was an isolated event, so it was very weird. Um, it could have been absinthe mixed with something else. That makes sense. That makes sense because, as if I try to remember, obviously the how do you call it, the it wasn't very liquid, so it was definitely absinthe with something syrupy. So it had the consistency of a cough syrup, more like kind of honeyish consistency. But the bitterness of the absinthe, I can see that being mixed with something else that perhaps like a spicy drug or syrup like substance. I don't know, but it could have been. Now they use GHB. Well, that's true. That's true, and that's what they give to victims a lot. In fact, that's what we're seeing with this Diddy sexual sex trafficking lawsuit case that he has, which they're trying to make it seem like it's just him pimping out, other adults and celebrities, but in reality, it's satanic ritual abuse, is kidnapping, pedophilia, child porn, snuff films, murder, you name it. But they're trying to make it seem like it's just another Harvey Weinstein kind of story, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Um, I think the attacks have lessened um, because I guess we handle threats the right way, and the best decision was to move to this current location. You cannot see it, but this I love my office. It's a new office. I don't get noise from anywhere. It's completely private. It's my little studio where I can do whatever, create films, write, even play music without driving my wife nuts. The situation being that we both work from home, so we need to negotiate things in a certain way because we spend 24 hours together. So, if certain marriages have difficulties, they have their little tug of wars when they see each other. I don't know, 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day. Imagine us. We have not separated in 3 years. We love each other, so that's the glue keeping everything together. That and our marriage being based in Jesus Christ and in being loyal. But it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. I love my wife, but sometimes we have arguments over the most nonsensical things, and it's because we lack space. So you know, I guess it's just negotiating and having your own space. For if I'm pissed off, I'm just gonna come to my office and smoke a cigarette and try to calm down. Yes, with her. About Isaac Cappy, I was in communication with him, not as much during the last weeks of his life because he was not in a good place. So he wasn't the most talkative person at the time. But for the previous year, we were in contact. There's actually some things that he shared with me about some child actors and actresses that I need to disclose. I'm just waiting the right time to do it because these things deserve more attention. And as I keep fighting to get my platforms in a stable enough positions, as I keep getting banned from everywhere, that's what's sometimes delays the disclosure. The total disclosure. Yes, this location is amazing. It's a little southern village. People are nice. There's more old people than young people, so that's funny. Me personally, I get along really well with old folks. So for me, like going to we call the bars here Tashkas. So for me, going to the Tashka and just sitting to speak with the old man from the village for 2 or 3 hours, that seems like a entertaining enough time for me. Uh, One of the things I was saying to my wife and to my friends this week is that one of the things I will never get, thank God, is a midlife crisis. Because my life was always an adrenaline filled chaos. From the time I was 11, 10, 11, up until I was 31, more or less 30. I met my wife at 33. So by the time I was 31, I was already calming down. I was just coming down. But thank God I'm not gonna go out and buy a Ferrari, because I have a midlife crisis. Not that I have the money to do so, anyways. I'm not gonna go and have a divorce because I have a midlife crisis. So sometimes, in my case, I think it was good that I already got everything out of my system. I did everything that you could imagine, good and bad, fun and not so fun. And now I just want to farm lettuce and raise chickens in a farm. That's all I want. Um, it could be as scopolamine is something that they're using more and more nowadays, especially for mind control and military interrogations. Scopolamine is a dust. It's a substance that it can make into a dust, and it's very common in Colombia, but it's also very common in Costa Rica. Uh, um, it's a flower that actually in Costa Rica we call it Queen of the Night, and it was something I never messed with. Even me, that I was very bold, because some guys used to do tea from this flower and just trip bowls for 48 hours straight. Some of them went blind. Some of them ended up jumping from cliffs. Some of them lost their minds. I never did. I never touched this stuff. But they used this drug to kidnap people in Colombia, and now it seems that they're using it everywhere. They use it in Brazil. It's very dangerous. Um, the Springmeyer books, I need to buy them. Actually, because I had to move to Portugal on a whim to meet because my wife and I did things backwards. She was brave enough to come to Costa Rica first, which you gotta give it to her. She's very brave, because I don't really look like the most sane person out there, even though I'm a good guy. But I have my quirks, and the way I plan things is that she arrived. We spent 3 days at an Airbnb, and then we went a whole month to a cabin, like an hour and a half away from the closest supermarket. And listen, we got to tell you about that cabin. That cabin was haunted. and it belonged to a Freemason. So the plot thickens. I actually want to do a podcast about that because what we experienced in that cabin, you know, I cannot tell you. I would actually like to convince my wife to come on camera so we can both tell the story because it's just so freaking unbelievable. But if you guys have seen David Politis and Missing 911, what is it? Missing 411. He makes these videos about these disappearances in the national parks that can be related to military experiments and so on. Um, we experience, I mean, we're convinced there was a cryptid creature stalking us for a week every night until we left. A poisonous snake almost bites my wife in the neck. I was forced to kill like 50 wasps. What else happened? Um, there were a bunch of things going on, but that's content enough for a whole podcast. And I would like for my wife to do it with me, but she's camera shy, so I'll have to do an effort to convince her. Um, Let me see questions here. Stalk it with her. Hey, where are you from? You're from America too, because your username is a bit sounds German or Austrian. Here, wine is king. I'm not a huge drinker anymore, especially because it gives me heartburn. Like I already did my excess. I only can now do small quantities of whatever because my body cannot take it. Um, but yes, wine is king here. One of the things that I really enjoy, well, but that's because I grew up in Costa Rica and I have that late Latin flavor to me, is caipirinhas. They're Brazilian, but they sell them everywhere. So I try to take when we go to sometimes we go to these Brazilian restaurants where it's all you can eat and it's this magnificent cuts of meat. Um, what's the name of this cut? Picanha is a world famous cut. Picanha. They give you, uh, you know, everything is cooked on coal, chicken, pork, ribs, but the picanha and the red cuts of beef with fat, those are the best. So every time that, well, there's my wife. She knows that's her favorite cut. So when we go to eat there, I usually ask for those. But if I was to suggest a local drink, mm, I would say stick with the wines. Try the wines from Alentejo or the wines from the Douro River. Um, because actually, I'm not a wine guy. When I used to drink, I'm more of a whiskey guy. So, you know. Oh, David, that's a long story. You don't know about it. Well, just to finish with missing 411. We like David Politis a lot. Actually, it was my wife who introduced me to him. I think he's a very good guy. He's not connected to COINTELPRO or anything like that. That's what I believe. I could be wrong, but there's just so few people that I can like in this truther so-called truther movement because everyone has their weird connections, weird shenanigans. So it's becoming more difficult to like these people. My cat is creating a ruckus there in the bed, but it's so much fun to have her around. I don't mind. Um, Noble family, boys, you love caipirinhas. I love them too. I'm trying to make them at home, but they're not the same. Um, One of the things that I forgot to tell you guys this. Um, when I was looking into what happened to me when I was a kid. Um, I came across this person who advised me to look into my family heritage. And what I found, let me see if I can find it here real quick, is very interesting because that could also be a reason why I was targeted. Um, what I found out is that, let me see, where are the notes? Ah, my computer is a mess. Like, I need to organize this like yesterday. Um, heritage. I'm just trying to find. Let me see. Psyops. I have so much stuff here. It's not here. Well, what I found out is that my family, like my real name is Ballerine Castillon. Uh, what I found out is that the first name, the first last name, it comes from my father, comes from Veneto, which is in the north of Italy, near Genova. So nearby Christopher Columbus and all that, um, close to the Venetians and stuff like that. Hey, what are you doing? And it also comes like it was Valeriani, so it was like a mixture from South France and North Italy. And the name of my mom, it didn't come from Barcelona as we thought, as we were told. It actually came from France, from a region called Artois. There's still a castle that belongs to my family in there, in ruins. So it's not. You will need to spend tons of money to be able to live there. But yes, that was my forefather's castle, who turned out to be. I made a study, a genealogy study, and turned out to be Tanguy du Châtel III, who was a Breton knight who fought the Hundred Years' War. He was a noble knight, and he was the guy that executed the Duke of Burgundy in as a revenge, as payback for them capturing Joan of Arc and delivering her to the English. So I found out that about my family like 4 years ago, and I suspect that that could be the case. I think that could be one of the reasons why I was targeted. But wait, ¿qué? ¿Quiere bajar? ¿Mm? Ah, ¿qué pasó? Ah. Well, I'm gonna leave you guys. Let me see connection. Let me see if you have more questions. The cat is impatient. I have to feed her. We haven't fed her, but yeah, I discovered that. So I don't know if it's like these people know, and they just track you and pluck you out from whenever and abuse you for whatever reason. I don't know if our bloodlines have some kind of something that they're after, but what I was told personally by a person that never misguided me in reality is that once you know where you come from, they cannot use it against you. But if they find out before you, that's when it can really get tricky for you. So that's what I was told. Yeah, it's very funny because if you put a picture of this guy, my forefather, and myself next to each other, it's like it's the same person. I'm just gonna show you because that's kind of funny. Um, miscellaneous. Let me see notes. Um, archives. Others personal. Okay. Let me see if I can show you. You guys are gonna laugh because it is funny. So let me see if you guys can see it. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. So yeah, that's the guy on the left, and that's me on the right. This is me like 10 years ago, of course, when I was 28 or something. I found out that these were our family shields. I found out that this city in Valencia was founded by our family. And yes, there's different things here. Like this is the castle that used to belong to my family. Now it's full of bushes and grass and stuff, and it seems like it's torn apart. And what else? This is the guy, and this is the guy. So the guy in question died at the siege of Boshain when he was like 72 years old. So he was tough MF. And he is buried at Notre Dame next to the king that betrayed him, because what happened is that obviously the French monarchy was corrupt. They gave Joan of Arc away to the English after she helped them regain Paris. And what's going on? And of course, my family wasn't up for that. My forefather executed the Duke of Burgundy against the orders of the king. So that's when we were just pushed away, our lands taken, and we were forced to move to Spain and England. So in England, our name changed to Castleman, and in Spain, our name changed to Castillon, and that's where my bloodline comes from. I don't know if that had an influence in all this, but it's interesting to consider. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. I agree with you with her. I think that's probably one of the main reasons. We're not supposed to escape, but once we pass through a certain threshold, we be once we actually stand our ground, and they see that we are a direct threat, and perhaps like we are more the nuisance than I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Cassie, because yeah, some people they're never let go, but at least for me, it seems like we are at a good moment now. Even though I'm always being targeted online and censored and stuff like that, but that's that comes with the territory. I'm not that concerned about that. Um, I have to leave you guys now because we are leaving in 4 hours. We need to leave to Lisbon, and we haven't slept. It's 3 a.m. here. I guess my wife just finished her shift, and I need to go and see what we're gonna do. I think we need to pack right now. But the live streams are gonna become an occurrence. I'm gonna be doing this 2 or 3 times a week. I actually enjoy a lot talking with you guys, and I'm trying to lose the situation I have with being on camera. It's not because I'm shy. I'm not shy. I'm reserved. So I just don't it's not my thing to be on camera, but it's I'm getting used to it, and I guess the more I do it, the easier it will become. Um, we'll keep in touch on Telegram. Love you all. God bless you all. Thank you for listening, and share away, as some of these experiences I think might help some parents to have some awareness, um, to detect if something unholy it's happening to their children. Um, you're never too young or too old to suffer any kind of abuse. Um, for those of you who came to the live stream late, you will be able to rewatch it. Just give me a moment. Once I finish it, you might refresh 10 minutes later, and it should be able for you to just rewatch from the beginning. If you're not able to rewind right now, but I think you should. Have a great night. Thank you for being here. Have a great weekend. We love you. The cat loves you. And God bless.